Here we go. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. This is the first webinar that we are hosting related to coping with grief and loss during the holiday. My name is Dr. Fredrica Brooks-Davis, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Constituent Relations in the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement. And here with me this evening, I have my colleagues. I'm so happy that they are here to greet you this evening one by one. Certainly, we want to acknowledge the leader of our office, Dr. L'Oreal Sadler, Vice President over the Office of Alumni Relations here at Clark Atlanta University. And so first, I'm actually going to start with my bottom left, perhaps your right, and I'm going to ask each one of my colleagues to introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they do here in the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement. So I'm going to first start with ladies, and I'm going to start off with Miss Natalie Parker.
Hi, good evening, alumni. I am Natalie Parker. I am a two-time alum, class of 2012 and class of 2021. I've been with the university now for over 10 years. Specifically in the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement, I am the Assistant Director of Marketing and Communications. And so I manage our communication pieces. You may have seen Amplify, the Panther Post, our social media. I also work with some of our anniversary classes that are celebrating 40 years and younger. I've assisted with their class reunions and class planning and wherever else I'm needed. And so I'm excited to connect and be on this call with you all today.
Thank you, Miss Parker. Next, I'm going to go over to Miss Sonny Hill, who we'll meet later on. But Miss Sonny Hill, would you like to introduce yourself tonight?
Absolutely. My name is Sonny Hill, and I am the Executive Assistant in the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement, and also the Personal Executive Assistant to Dr. L'Oreal Sadler. And tonight I'm the office poet.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. And finally, certainly not least, we want to introduce the newest member of our team. So we will have Mr. Jason Etheridge introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Etheridge. I am not an alum of Clark Atlanta, but I am an alum of the city of Atlanta. So I was born and raised here down in Crawford Long. I'm a career educator, worked in K-12 and in higher education. And I'm blessed to be back where it all started for my family right here in the Vine City and AUC area where my family grew up back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So my mom and my uncles and aunties, they're shining bright knowing that I'm here. And I'm blessed to bring all the wisdom and the skills and the talents that I've gained over the years back here to a great university to do some great things with our alumni. My role specifically is the Assistant Director of Alumni Programs, and I can't wait to get on board and begin to work with you more.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Etheridge, for coming on board. And so we are going to say goodbye right now to our staff, and then we're going to move on with our workshop this evening. So we are going to start first with our resident poet here, and that is Miss Sonny Hill, who will start us off. And then from there, we'll go straight into our workshop for this evening. And then if you have any questions, we are asking that you will drop them in the chat. If you have a comment box, you can place them there, and then we'll move forward. I'll introduce you to our two other clinicians actually who will be on the call. So for right now, let's start with you, Miss Sonny Hill.
Good evening, everyone. The name of the poem that I'm going to recite is called How Am I to Remember You? And I believe this poem speaks very specifically to our topic this evening of grief and loss. And it goes like this. When sickness and calamity ushers in the spirit of death, how am I to remember you? When my flesh is in distraught and in the deepness of the night, it screams out over the absence of you. How am I to remember you? Do I think back on only the things that are good? I am told that most people should, but I want to remember you, all of you. I want to remember your sorrow as well as your pain, your suffering as well as your sickness, your thoughts of why but too broken to ask. I want to remember you loving me and your thoughts of thankfulness. I want to remember you running healthy through the park, just as I want to remember visions of you pouring water from a pitcher to a glass. I want to remember you sleeping. I want to remember you strong. I want to remember you angry. I want to remember you laughing. I want to remember you standing. I want to remember your scent. And just wishing for the chance that I still had the time to love what I considered to be even the not so good. If it meant that I could still have you here with me, then I will take it. Knowing that there exists no poem that is prolific enough to explain all the ways that I have ever loved you, wanting to list everything that there ever was about you, knowing that that is an impossibility to do because loving you completely is all that I have ever known how to do. I need to have you painted within the secret places of my mind so that I can remember all of you. I miss you, which is why I need to remember every moment of you. Thank you. That's it.
That is beautiful. Can we clap it up for Miss Hill? You can drop it in the chat. Whether you are watching now or on the replay, we want you to clap it up. That was very beautiful, Miss Hill. We want to thank you for sharing your talent with us this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So now we are going to move forward into our workshop tonight. Again, we are talking about coping with grief and loss during the holiday time. We know for those who are preparing to celebrate the holidays, this may be important to you. We encourage you, in fact, if it is something that you may want to share with one of your peers, as we move forward, you'll be able to see the replay on the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagements Facebook and Instagram page. And so with that, I am going to move us forward. I will first introduce to you also our guest speakers for this evening that we have the pleasure of being with us tonight. I am going to start this session here with coping with grief and loss during the holidays. The first disclaimer, I want to start with our disclaimer that you understand this is a webinar. It's purely for informational and educational purposes, and that is the type of event we are in. 3 of us on this panel are clinicians, and so therefore we want to make sure that you understand that this is no form of counseling. The information we share tonight is for a general audience, and it does not purport to be, nor should it be construed as specific advice tailored to any specific individual. My use of the content shared in this program is at your own risk. The facilitators, we do not guarantee any results from using any of the suggestions we make tonight. It is your personal responsibility to do your own research and obtain any professional, medical, legal, financial, or other help that you may need for your respective situation. Further, you recognize and agree that some or all of the aforementioned material or information may contain copyrighted material and or private training methods and will be and will remain the sole property of the facilitator. As for myself, I am the proud graduate of the class of 1996, the Olympic class of Clark Atlanta University. As I mentioned before, yesterday was my 9th month serving in this new role as the Director of Constituent Relations and Engagement here at Clark Atlanta. I hold a bachelor's degree from Clark Atlanta in psychology, a Master of Arts degree in community counseling from Eastern Michigan University, and both a Master of Arts and Doctor of Psychology degrees in clinical psychology from Regent University, specializing in program development and consultation. Our next facilitator for this evening is Dr. Michael Chan-Frazier. He is a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, the class of 1998. Since 2000, Dr. Michael has been a dedicated therapist working in both the private practice and intensive clinical settings. Recognized for his innovative approach, he is one of only 2 CARE certified SOVA specialists worldwide. Through SOVA Bar, a specialized energy clearing practice, he helps clients achieve deep healing and transformation. As lead counselor and manager at Vonda House, Dr. Michael is committed to guiding individuals toward greater awareness, joy, and a lifestyle that aligns with their highest good. And we will hear from Dr. Chan-Frazier later on this evening. So please welcome him to the stage and we'll hear from him later. And if you happen to see the replay, certainly we want you to acknowledge him there. So welcome, Dr. Michael, our alum. Next to the stage, I am going to bring Mr. Ron Kelly. He is our speaker tonight, and he too is an alum of Clark Atlanta University. I'm just grateful in the month of November, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, that I am joined with 2 brothers on this stage. Dr. Ron Kelly is a graduate of the class of 1992 here at Clark Atlanta. He is a licensed clinical psychologist with over 17 years of experience in the field of mental health. He specializes in workplace stress, addiction, and issues related to couples. Dr. Kelly has extensive experience working in the space of men's mental health and being a mentor to those starting their career as a clinical psychologist. Dr. Kelly earned his Psy.D. in clinical psychology from Argosy University in the Washington, D.C. campus. Throughout his career, Dr. Kelly has provided compassionate and evidence-based care to his clients. He believes in collaborative approach to therapy, working closely with his clients to develop personalized treatment plans that address their unique needs and goals. Dr. Kelly's approach is rooted in the Gottman method and uses solution-focused methods in self-psychology to guide his patients' care. In his spare time, Dr. Kelly enjoys running and is an advocate for mental health awareness. He regularly participates in workshops and seminars to educate the community about mental health issues. So again, you can drop it in the chat, in the comments section, wherever you may be watching us from to now our replay. Help me welcome Dr. Ron Kelly to the stage and to tonight's presentation. So thank you to both of you from the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement for using your gifts and that good degree from Clark Atlanta to share information with our fellow alum, but not just the alum of Clark Atlanta University, the broader community. So thank you all tonight. I am going to start us off, and then we will be joined by Dr. Kelly and then Dr. Michael Chan-Frazier. We want you, if you're just joining us tonight, please drop your questions or comments in the chat. And we will make sure we answer them at the end of our time here today. So with that being said, I am going to get us started here. So what is grief? Grief is a normal and expected response to death or loss of anything significant. The process that helps us adapt to the changes that come with loss is an intense, personal, and individual process. And now I want to make sure we're clear when we say personal. You may have a loss of a loved one. You can have a loss of a relationship. And even though that loss has impacted more than one person, it is definitely personal and individual. And it's healthy, but painful. And it's a human response. There are reactions we have to grief, and there are some emotional symptoms: that's shock, denial, anger and anxiety, depression, loneliness, glimmers of hope, and guilt. All of these are natural reactions to grief, and these are emotional symptoms when you have lost a loved one, loss of a relationship. But then there's physical symptoms: sleeplessness, sadness, weight loss or gain, tearfulness, fatigue, upset stomach, dreams and nightmares, and a lack of concentration. Are these feelings normal, and how long do they last? So first, we want you to know that the feelings, the emotions, yes, they are normal. although not every person will experience every symptom. So I just reviewed for you some emotional and physical symptoms that may indicate that you're on your grief journey, but I don't want you to look at that list or any other list and say, oh, I must experience all of these, because that's not true. The grieving period varies from person to person according to each situation. And I might add here relationship, right? So you may have lost a parent, and you may have lost a friend, you may have lost a cousin. In each one of those situations, grief may hit you differently. Not that you loved them differently, but as a result of your relationship or your situation, your grief can vary. So we don't expect, and oftentimes people do, they expect that the way they grieve one person is the same way it's going to show up. Not so much. So we just want you to be aware of that. And it may be brief or it may last for years. There are 4 key facts about grief. The way out of grief is through it. The very worst kind of grief is yours, is mine. Grief is hard work, and effective grief work is not done alone. What about loss? Because we talked about grief, and then there's loss. And so oftentimes with grief, we are grieving the loss. We think the loss of a loved one. When we experience loss, there might be loss we're experiencing that's due to a loss of relationship, separation, divorce. There's some other things that we may lose. So if you're watching, what are some of those things that you might be experiencing? So with that, we move to types of loss. So there's perceived loss, loss which is felt by the person, but is intangible to others. What's an example of that? Loss of youth, financial independence, a value environment, or loss of power. So as we age, we lose some of the things that we once were able to do independently. And so some of us may be caring for our parents, and it's a difficult transition because they're losing independence, but we also may be losing some of the things that we used to do because we're caring for a parent or a child or a loved one. So that's perceived loss, because it's perceived because it's how I am experiencing it. But then there's anticipatory loss. That's more of a feared loss. So this person displays loss and grief behaviors for a loss that has yet to take place. An example could be a daughter is experiencing a loss as she watches her terminally ill father lose his fight to bone cancer, or a college student prepares to graduate and move to another city. In this latter example, it's exciting because the college student here at Clark Atlanta or another university, they're ready to graduate. But at the same token, they know Atlanta. They know their dorm. They know their roommate. So this is an anticipatory loss as they prepare to leave and then move on. While we experience grief, we experience loss. One of the things that we want to introduce to you in this season of it being a holiday, whatever one you may or may experience, is creating new traditions. What are traditions? They are things that we do that bring us fond memories of loved ones and happy times. What happens to those traditions when we lose a loved one? They become too painful to bear. Holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, picnics, vacations, what once was joy now only magnifies our loss. So should we throw away all those traditions that used to bring us joy to our hearts? What do you think? You can drop it in the chat. I know many will watch the replay, but the bottom line is share with us what traditions did you experience with a loved one that maybe that's something that you are not looking forward to the holidays. I spoke with someone a moment ago and it was like, I really need to be here tonight because their mother transitioned this year and they're not looking forward to the next this season of holiday. So creating tradition is refusing to participate in the old tradition. It doesn't stop us from remembering them. In fact, the absence of those traditions usually increases the feeling of aloneness and abandonment. Yet to continue in the old traditions increases the reality of our loved one's absence. So what do we do when it seems like we can't win for losing? We create new traditions. And so what then does that look like? Are we suggesting that if your tradition was that you went to your mother's house for Thanksgiving, that you not go to your mother's home if someone still lives there or you still own the home? We aren't suggesting that. It may be something you want to do, but perhaps instead of going back to your mother's home, your family decides we're still going to gather as a family, but maybe we're going to do it out of town. Or instead of cooking, because that's very painful because you remember sharing those recipes, standing around the kitchen, cooking and singing, perhaps you say, let's go to a restaurant. Or perhaps we just stay home in our pajamas and we eat cereal. But the bottom line is that we are looking to create a new tradition, and it's okay to do that because it doesn't mean that you don't honor your loved one. Here are some ways to create new holiday traditions in your family. So during family dinners, say a prayer of thanks for the loved one present and have a moment of silence for those who are missing, who are not there with you at your dinner table. Invite friends or loved ones to celebrate the holiday with you and your family. So maybe you want to expand the persons who are at your table now, and this may be a new tradition. Spend the morning volunteering. So how many of us, if you've lost a loved one, you're not wanting to have dinner, do tradition, maybe you want to start a new one. So let's say that your loved one is someone who took care of someone who was terminally ill. Maybe you want to find out if there's an American Cancer Society Hope Lodge around. Maybe you want to serve and feed others in honor of the person who transitioned. So you can also share stories about your loved one. You can donate to a charity in the honor of your loved one. If your loved one was paid or contributed to you, dear alum who are going to Clark Atlanta University, and they supported you while you were in school, maybe we're preparing now for our giving campaign. So maybe you want to honor your loved one by making a donation to the university in honor of your loved one's name. It is important that traditions focus on the memory of your loved one, not all somber moments. So do something fun. Here's some important facts to keep in mind. There's no right or wrong way to remember and honor your loved one. Do what feels good to you and your family. When my husband died, he loved birthdays. My favorite holiday is Christmas. His was birthday. So on his birthday, my parents traveled to Maryland where I lived at the time. My mentor was there, the family, and we went out to dinner to one of his favorite restaurants. He loved ice cream and birthday cake. We did all of those things that he would have loved to do had he been here with us in the natural. And so that was a new tradition in that he was not there, but we also did a couple of other things in honor of him. Remember that it's healthy if your sadness lessens over the passage of time. Some people feel like they have to hold on and cry, and that's the indication, but no, it can lessen. Try to let go of your guilt that your life is moving forward. Those are some of the things with creating tradition. Wear his or her favorite color, eat their favorite food, celebrate life, celebration of life. So bring pictures and discuss favorite stories that you have. And then document. We have cell phones now with videos. Document stories and feelings in order to celebrate and create new traditions. Finally, let me just share with you that coping is a normal part of living with loss. It's the struggle you go through every day to meet your own needs and the demands of your new situation. The struggle is to cope well, rather than in unhealthy and destructive ways. Some strategies to cope: seek support of your family members and friends, assistance from a mental health professional, participate in a support group, take a walk, listen to music, and meditate. And then I wanted to provide for you, before I bring up Dr. Kelly, these are some resources for you. If you're watching now or on the replay, call 988. If you are experiencing difficulty adjusting to the loss of a loved one, the loss of a relationship, 988 will be a great resource for you. They are 24/7. It does not matter where you live. You can certainly call them. Griefshare.org is a Christian-based support group for adults who are grieving the loss of a loved one. They are nationwide. You can find them. They're virtual and they're online. There's no cost. And then Psychology Today, that is another resource for you. And I'll put them up in the banner a little later. But these are some resources that you can access. So with that being said, I want to thank you for your time. Again, if you have questions, if you're just joining us, we're talking about grief and loss, coping during the holidays. And now we're going to have Dr. Ron Kelly, who is going to share some additional information with you at this time. Dr. Kelly.
Well, thank you for the introduction, and you just gave such wonderful information, Dr. Brooks. So I just want to kind of add a few more things to what you've said, and kind of talk about the grief process, especially during the holidays, because during the holidays it's tied into with a lot of rituals, and when we don't have loved ones, and we're celebrating losses or anniversaries such as people's deaths and their birthdays or anniversaries, it makes it a little bit more complex. And you may be wondering, you say, well, I might have been doing better because it's been several months since the person has passed. And those anniversaries or those birthdays can be very, very challenging. One of the things that I kind of I talk to people about is try to prepare for birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, by thinking about, well, how do you want just to celebrate those particular days and preparing for it, whether it be asking for time off from work, or asking for friends or other family members to join you and be in support of you on those particular days, because typically those days are going to be very, very, very difficult. And, trying to be prepared for it and doing things in advance, not thinking that you can just power through, you can be extra strong. You're more than likely, your instincts and what your gut is telling you is probably correct, which is this is going to probably be a very, very difficult day for me. So thus, let me have some things prepared so that I don't get caught off guard and I can deal with it the best that I can. The next thing that I want to kind of make sure that we kind of speak about is that grief. Think about grief as it ebbs and flows. That you're going to have some days where it's just going to be extremely difficult, and then it's going to be other days where though it kind of goes away. And it's just important to be able to recognize that and lean into the fact that it's going to be some ebbs and flows to it, and there is no certain amount of time that it will take for each grief experience. Each grief experience is very unique, and you'll go through different stages and feel different ways at different times. But just know that everybody goes through it. It is the most important thing. It is a universal experience. Everybody goes through grief. Everybody goes through grief a little differently in different ways, but everybody goes through it. So somebody can identify, somebody has gone through something very, very similar to what you've gone through at some point in time. And the important part, you will get through it. And I know sometimes it's like, I was seeing something about how you may be on the drive and you may only be able to see 10 feet in front of you, and you may be having to go 300-400 miles. But just because you can only see 10 feet doesn't mean that you're not making progress. And it's going to feel like some days you're not making a lot of progress, or you're only going 5 feet. But that 5 feet is going to add up, and you're going to eventually get to the other side of what feels like this darkness that just isn't going to relent. And just know that it will be different. I'm not going to say that it's going to be better. It will be different as you go through it. But everybody goes through it. You will learn how to be able to get better with it as time goes on. You will start making adjustments in your life to the loss of those individuals. And the goal is to get to a place of just moving from grieving to just missing them. The missing will never likely go away. The grief is the pain, the sadness, not wanting to go on. The missing is when you're focused on they're just not here. I wish that I could be able to share these moments with them. I wish they could be here for their grandchild or for graduation or those type of things. And that's never going to go away. And what the goal is to get to a place to where though we are having happy tears of just desiring for them being here, and not the sadness and the pain of them not of them not being here and the loss. And so that is what the goal is to move towards missing. And every day that you are going through the grief, hopefully you're moving towards getting from the grief to missing. So those are the words I would kind of give you as far as just how to deal with grief. And another thing, just want you to kind of think about too, is that grief can happen in a lot of different ways, and just being able to be cognizant of that natural order sometimes can make grief a little bit more difficult. Sometimes when grief makes sense, whereas though it's the natural way things, whereas you would have anticipated that it would be somebody that was your grandmother or your grandparent, they passed away at 80, 90 years old. That's going to be a little bit different type of grief because it kind of falls into the natural. The ones that tend to be a little bit more challenging is when it falls out of natural order, where somebody was younger, it wasn't anticipated. Those would be the things that will be talked about later on when they start talking about when you have to deal with children and the loss, and maybe the loss of a child, that is an even more complicated grief because that falls out of the natural order of things. And so sometimes those complicated, very complex griefs, sometimes they do require, and it helps to really be able to go get some support from a grief counselor, because it can just be extremely complicated and very difficult for somebody to be able to just work through on their own. So always be open to getting some help as far as bereavement counseling is concerned, because it can be what is needed to help you to be able to kind of get through those initial parts of the grief that are that sometimes people find to be a little bit challenging. Okay, so please drop any questions or comments that you have, and we'll be glad to be able to answer them at the end.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. And now we are going to bring to the stage Dr. Michael. And then what we're going to do, Dr. Kelly, because based on what you said, I have a few questions.
Sure.
So we're going to let Dr. Michael come up next. And then at the end, we're going to have entertaining questions. So again, if you're watching now, make sure that you drop your questions in the comments. I see on Facebook that it has been shared, and I see we have viewers on Facebook, which is great. So if you're on Facebook, we can see your comments. So please feel free to drop them in the chat as well. All right, Dr. Michael, we're going to bring you to the stage now. Oops, sorry about that. Let me bring up Dr. Michael and then Dr. Kelly. There you go, Dr. Michael, take it away.
Well, I appreciate what Dr. Brooks-Davis and what Dr. Kelly was saying just about grief, and just to echo what they're saying, especially when you talk about grief with children, youth, teens. Developmentally, we all can relate to just being a teenager can be very interesting, but grief it's that onion, has so many different layers, and it is complicated. It can, and when you think about grief, traditionally people just think about grief, and it's just not just, but people focus just on when people pass away or people transition. And grief is so many different things. It's not just when someone, and just to echo what people are already saying, it's not just when someone transitions. It's not when someone dies, or whatever the label, the wording that you might want to put on it. I'm very careful about the words and the context around that, because culturally people define death, transition, passing on in so many different ways, and just in respect to culture and things of that nature. But there's so many ways to look at grief. So traditionally, if we're talking about death with children, it's so nebulous, or it's so mysterious, because it's so, how do you explain that to a child? How do you normalize someone transitioning? And for me, I remember when I first became a therapist, I was working in Miami in South Florida, and I was working with so many different populations, ranging from Haitian, Jamaican, Black American, Cuban, Ecuadorian, white American, and it was a mixed bag, and in that, respecting where people are, respecting their experiences and where they've come from. And I want to offer up a few things a few points of what people can do to support children through that process. But again, these are broad strokes. This is not the end all be all, because we're human and people are different and people respond to different things. And then when you talk about children, infants, you talk about infants, elementary age, and then you go through adolescence. Hormones are evolving and changing, and in dealing with that, and then young adults, you're just trying to find yourself. So it can be very interesting when you talk about grief with youth and young adults. So for me, I would say when you're working with grief with youth and young adults, one of the things that you can say is maintain routines when you're speaking to them about grief. When I say maintaining routines and setting limits, what does that look like? So again, going back to clients that I've worked with, a lot of anger. You can go into Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief. There's an acceptance. Well, there's a denial. You don't want to accept the fact that person or thing or pet or whatever is going on is not there anymore. So there's a denial there. With denial comes anger, and with that anger comes a bargaining. I don't want to accept the fact that this person is not here anymore. I'm just going to lean into the fact of someone that's passed away or transitioned on. And with that, there comes a depression. And then after the depression, time and space, hopefully there's going to come some type of acceptance around the fact that the person is physically not here. The reason why I'm saying physically not here, spiritually, you may not feel like the person may not physically be here, but spiritually, the person, their essence is still with you. The things you used to do, the rituals you used to have, the behaviors and patterns that you all shared are still there. I'm going to go back to that in a second if I have time. But then facilitating open and honest communication with that child around that. And that statement alone, it sounds very easy, but what does that even look like? You know, and then giving time and giving space and grace for that. You want to give open communication with the child and normalize the emotions around that. But again, what does that look like? You as an adult, you might be experiencing a lot of denial, a lot of anger, a lot of depression around that. What does that look like for you? Hopefully, as the adult, you getting clear what that looks like for you so that you can support that child or that youth or that young adult through that process. And if you can't, being honest with yourself and with them in a balanced way around that. Well, then, Dr. Michael, what is that? How do I do that? That's when you talk to someone else. You get advice, whether it's through a therapist or a mental health professional, or even a coach or a mentor or someone else potentially who can support you and provide the community for your child around that. That's huge, because you don't have to have all the answers. You're not alone. Hopefully you have that resource or resources around you that you can reach out. But what happens if you don't have that resources? I'm gonna put some resources in the chat box. Hopefully that can support in that aspect. One other thing is talking to your child about common myths about death and dying or transitioning. I remember, this is just a personal moment. I remember when one of my very, very close aunts, who was a surrogate mother to me, who served as a grandmother for my kids who are 6 and 3, and my wife and I made a decision not to take them to the funeral, Aunt Ruby, and that doesn't stop the questions from coming. And they asked me specific questions on where are they, how are they? I miss them. And so for me, normalizing and validating their emotions, giving them the space to share that they were upset, they were angry, and then on top of that, giving them the space to talk about, well, I heard one of my friends or one of my teachers said A, B, and C, but also debunking some of the common myths around death, but also giving them the space to talk about it. One of the big things with our children that we did was we collaborated not only with family members, but collaborating with, like I said, with teachers, mentors, or people who they identified as important individuals in their lives. Now, all this and talking about it sounds great, but then providing a community or a space for them to feel emotionally safe when they feel emotionally safe, and even in those moments where it may not look like they feel like they're safe. The tantrums, the angry outbursts, the crying. When is this going to stop? It may not in that moment. Does that make sense? So making sure that you're providing the space for them to have that capsule for where they can release. Because again, it's a buildup, it's a buildup, it's a buildup. They need a space for them to release. And what does that look like? From some youth, some young adults, that might be athletics. For some of them, it might be drawing, might be illustrating, might be poetry, it might be dance. They may not have an outlet, and they might internally be carrying it and may not have an outlet. And so it might be up to you as the adult in their life to help them co-create that outlet for them. If that makes sense. One of the tools that I use here with the clients that I work with, we use Write to Heal or Pen to Paper with youth, letting them write it out in their own way, whatever that looks like for them, and then letting it go with other tools. It just depends on the youth. It depends on the child who you're working with. They may not want to write it out. They may not want to talk about it. They may want to just go play basketball. They may want to do something physical to physically exert the tension that they have in their body. There's no right or wrong, as everyone has been saying, there's no right or wrong way to release the energies, the tension around that. I definitely want to answer any questions around that, but especially in working with children, it's a mixed bag, just like it is with adults. One of the things that I always recommend with adults is, a lot of adults share with me, well, I don't know what to say or what to do. And then I literally reflect back to them, well, how are you dealing with it? And a lot of times it's, I don't know. And that's okay. And that's very normal. Imagine what it is for a child who may not have the faculties, or they actually do have the faculties, but you're not giving them the space to express how they are feeling. And then when you share that with a lot of the adults, they're like, well, wow, I'm in the same place. And so it kind of, it instead of you feeling like you have to have the answers, it brings you heart to heart, eye to eye, where you all can start to share and you can co-create and walk through this journey together and experience this journey together with knowing I don't have to have all the answers, if that makes sense. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share. I definitely want to address any questions that people have, but I have some resources that I want to share from infant to young adults and teens.
That's awesome. So tell me, Dr. Michael, how do those resources you have, is it a link that we can share? If you have a link, you can share it in the comments. And then that way, persons who are watching on the platform through the webinar, but also watching through social media, they will be able to see the link and the replay, and they'll be able to see it there. So if we could post it there, that would be great. And then the other thing that we could potentially do is for those who registered for the webinar, we can certainly email it to you so that you will be able to see it there. So what I'd like to do at this moment is I want to bring up the leader of our Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement. I am going to bring Dr. Lori Sadler to the stage. And then Michael, we'll come back on the end and answer any questions that may have come up. I have a few as it pertains to our topic tonight. So with that said, let me go ahead and bring you up, Dr. Sadler. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I guess I finally figured out how I was supposed to come in because I've been on and I've been listening the entire time. So this has been awesome, just outstanding. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Fredrica Brooks-Davis, for bringing this idea forward and bringing it to life, bringing our additional guests who are alums. Love that. And their expertise on this very important topic. It cannot be overstated how important it is for us to acknowledge grief, to acknowledge as we move into these holiday time periods, how it can be challenging for some people, and to offer help, to offer assistance, to offer ideas for how people can cope with it after truly acknowledging it. I thank all of you for sharing. I thank all of you for helping our community. So thank you all for joining, everyone who is here watching on a variety of platforms. Thank you for joining us. We hope you find this valuable as I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sadler. And so I'm going to actually ask you to stay on, Dr. Sadler, in case we have some questions come through from our alumni community about alumni relations and engagement in and of itself. So what I'd like to do for the balance of our time, we're going to be ending momentarily. We're not going to hold you any longer than we need to, but we certainly want to make this space available that if you have any questions about the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement, oh my gosh, Michael, you see she drinking from that AKA cup sidebar. So if you have any questions, we want to certainly have you to put them in the chat. Certainly we will put up information and resources for you. And again, I definitely want to thank our alumni, our mental health professionals. And as a mental health professional myself, I can tell you, seeing these two brothers on this stage who are clinicians and providing mental health services, it is extremely rare that we have two. I reached out to Dr. Kelly, and then Dr. Michael sent me a message and say, how can I support and help? So thank you to our fellow CAU alum. We'll look to do more of these, not just mental health related, but to our other alum who are watching or watching later, we want to highlight our alum and provide resources, give back to the community and give back to our university as well. So with that being said, I would like to, in honor of this time, just ask both you, Dr. Kelly, Dr. Chan-Frazier, can you help or talk about for our brothers who are still feel like they cannot speak with a mental health therapist, that that's a sign of weakness? How might you encourage someone watching now? Also, how might you encourage a sister who knows and sees that her husband is going through, her partner is going through a challenging time, and how might she encourage him to seek therapy? So I'll start with you, Dr. Kelly, and then come back to you, Dr. Chan-Frazier.
Well, my thought would be, and that is a challenge, is just getting brothers to kind of understand that this is not that you are weak, but that this is a means of support, and that it's a universal experience, and that it doesn't hurt to be able to lean into and tap into a resource that's available to you, to be able, because talking opens up perspectives, and perspectives helps you with coping, and it gives you different ways of being able to deal with a situation, because sometimes you can't change something, and loss is one of those things that you cannot particularly do anything to change. But what it can do is that working with somebody or talking with somebody can help you to be able to gain an additional perspective, and perspective can be all the difference in the world in being able to move on and being able to move on effectively. Because the other thing that you got to take into account is that if we're marred and we're not moving through grief, it makes it difficult for us to be able to make decisions. And as a brother, we're always in a position to where, though, we need to be making decisions. We need to be moving with purpose and intentionality. But if we don't have clarity, and grief and anger are two things that slow us down from being able to make good quality decisions for ourselves and for our family, we need to try to do everything that we possibly can to keep ourselves available to be able to make good decisions in this world for ourselves and for our family. So that would be the main thing I would be encouraging in why you want to try to get all the support and help that you can with grief, because you don't need anything to be slowing you down and to make things unclear for you to be able to make decisions. So that's what I would encourage and say. It's about decision making, and when we got clarity, Dr. Michael would speak to it too. When you got clarity, you have a much better chance of making good decisions moving forward.
Thank you for that, Dr. Michael.
I love what Dr. Kelly just said about family, and it's like I think it's very simple, and we make it more complex than what it is. I would do anything for my daughters, like pretty much anything, and I would do anything to protect them. I would do anything to fight for them, advocate for them, and the same for my wife. I think that for a lot of, I answer in two ways. I think for a lot of men, the best thing that their partner can do, you asked a question about wives and their men, or their significant others, is for them, the partner, the wife, to take care of themselves emotionally. I think I can say this now because my mom is transitioned on. One of my best friends, my brother is transitioned on. Several of my aunts and my best friends have transitioned on. I had layers stripped off of me when I didn't want them. So, but what I can say is, when my partner is taking care of herself, regardless of what I'm doing, when she's taking care of herself and she is focusing on her happiness and focusing on her emotionality, it supports me the best. And the reason why I say that is because it inspires me to take care, and when she's doing that and she is saying certain things to me, not in a overbearing way or overwhelming way. It inspires me to, well, I see what she's doing over there. That, okay. But if she's, and me working with clients and me and myself, clients more specifically, where fix my husband, fix my man. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen for, if he's gonna try and fix you, is that gonna work for you? No. So for me, when two people come together and are working on themselves in their way. And I remember I used to work, I did consulting with Beam, and Yolo Achilles said this one thing, and I agree with him on this, where we as a Black community, we say, we say that it's that Black folk, we don't talk about mental health enough, and we don't talk about therapy. Yes, we do. It just looks differently. And a way of that is, it's like, Uncle Ray ain't never been right since he'd been in that car accident. That's mental health. Or Auntie so-and-so has never been right since she's been in that relationship. That's mental health. It's just said and described differently. And I know I'm jumping around a lot. I'm gonna bring it back home to this. I feel like when each person is focused on their self and their well-being in their way, it can flow. But we got to give each other the grace and the space to be able to do that, and what that looks like. Now, going back to what Dr. Kelly says, there does need to be a focus on that. If you don't take care of that trauma or the things that you're experiencing, it's going to take care of you, and that's not going to take care of you. It's going to deal with you if you don't deal with it. But it's easier. It's not easy, but it's easier when you decide that you start dealing with it, whatever that looks like. And I'll leave it at that. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
It does. It does. Thank you for sharing. I did not, let's see. We have some comments. Dr. Hi-Sor. There you go, Dr. Sadler. So Dr. Michael placed some resources in the comments section, and what we will do is make sure we have access to those so that we can share them with you. I have also listed some here that you can have access to as well, for those who are going through grief, those who might need therapy for any other reason. Grief may get you there, but someone said earlier, is onions that may, as you unpeel those onions, will this be recorded and available to view at a later time? Yes, it will. Actually, if you registered and you're on the platform, I set it up so you actually will be able to get it on demand. So as soon as this is over, we had people who registered, and we know it's 7:00 and it's different for people on different time zones. So if you registered for the webinar, you'll get it on demand. It'll come directly to you. If you're watching on one of the social media platforms, please start from the very beginning, see the replay. Our staff has introduced themselves, get to see them and know them. Also, we had an excellent poem by our poet, Miss Sonny Hill. And then we also had two great conversations and information sharing from Dr. Brian Kelly, Dr. Michael Chan-Frazier. And so I encourage you to watch and to share with family members as they're going through this season of grief and wanting to know how to cope for the holidays. So with our remaining time, I do want to ask both Dr. Kelly and Dr. Michael, if you just quickly want to shout out, how can they find you and where? We want to share that, our CAU alum there. And then Dr. Sadler, if you have anything in closing, I'll leave it to you. Otherwise, we will bid you all a good night. And we will also let you know that we are praying for everyone who is going through not just grief, but loss. We know that our government workers have returned to work, but also we know this season is going to be difficult and there's going to be loss because some families won't be able to provide like they once did. And that too is a loss. So know that your Clark Atlanta University family, whether you are an alum, an employee, we are praying for you globally. Okay. So Dr. Kelly and then Dr. Michael, tell people where they can find you.
I can be found at rakconsultants.com or on Psychology Today. Just put it in the therapist, Dr. Ron Kelly, and it'll give you my profile. Those are my two ways of being able to get in contact with me.
All right, great. And to you, Dr. Michael?
My email is michael@vanda.life. That's Wanda with a V, VANDA.life. I can put my information in there, and you can find me also social media, Dr. Michael Chan-Frazier.
And if you live in the Atlanta area and your schedule permits, hopefully these two will be at our upcoming event on December 6th, when we are going to have a meet and greet in Smyrna, Georgia. So you may be able to see them and meet them in person there. And Michael, you bring my sister and those nieces of mine. And so if you all are able to come out, you can meet them there personally, as well as our other alum, meet and greet, as well as this wonderful staff in the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement. Dr. Sally, do you have anything before we go?
I don't have anything other than thank you, everyone, for joining us. God bless you and good night.
And good night. Have a wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.